Thanks for tuning in to the second season of the Talking with Todd podcast. I'm your host, Todd Carter. Today's episode is sponsored by TJ Everhart Consulting LLC, developing the world's best employees and organizations, one training strategy at a time. Today on the show, we have our special guest, Miss Marsee Hunter. Marsee is an entrepreneur and a fashion stylist. Welcome to the show, Marsee.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's get started. So tell everybody, where are you from?
So Jacksonville, Florida, originally, and so I'm a Southern girl. However, I currently live in the city, so I'm in Washington, D.C. I moved to Virginia, and so now I'm currently in the nation's capital, as we say.
That's awesome. All right. So tell us a little bit about what you do for a living.
So I am a Jane of all trades, I guess you would say. Uh, I am a fashion stylist as well as an image consultant. So occasionally I do fashion styling for magazines and things of that nature. But my everyday client is, our professionals and stay-at-home moms and, regular everyday people. And then I also started my short-term rental property business around 2018 and started doing that. And that was my thriving business. But in the heart of it all, that the dream that I always wanted to get to was my swimwear line, which I just launched um, earlier this month, to be exact. And it's been around for a while. I've talked about it for years, but finally I launched it. And so those are a couple of things that I have going on. But what has sustained me has been my short-term rental business. I always kind of say my son is into music, so I always say, what is your product that you're selling? Like, rappers sell, not the stereotype, but the average rapper sells drugs before he goes into the industry. So I'm saying, what is your drug selling product? And mine has been short-term rental. What is the product that produces income for you to get to your dream?
Right.
Because I can't sell drugs. I'm not built for it.
I'm not going to jail.
Yeah, I'm not built for jail, and nor the outcome that it does to our community. But that's a whole different story. But my whole thing is, short-term rentals was my gateway to get me to my business of my swimwear line.
So that's why I was going to ask you, what inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
I've always wanted to start my styling business. I never looked at it as just being an entrepreneur. I always looked at it as wanting to help women and help them build their confidence and feel confident. And so it was never just really wanting to be an entrepreneur. It was wanting to control my time. I was a mom as well. So in the corporate world, having to pick up hurry up and get off at 5 and try to run and get to daycare or the after school care to pick up your child before you're charged a late fee or before your
Right.
child is the last child and feels, abandoned. Um, you know, uh, I got tired of that feeling, and as well as we were in an area where I heard so many stories of moms, that was in Florida, but even moving from Florida to the city, um, heard so many stories of moms leaving their kids to be latchkey kids, which is
Right.
is not horrible, but having to commute from the city, sometimes the kids were out on the playground, or one incident was a military mom who kids lost the key, and someone
Mm-hmm.
called Child Protective Services instead of helping the children out. So those are the stories that when I thought about going back to work, because I did take a time off, when I had my second child, um, what do I want to do? I don't want my child to have to sit out there. And there were a couple of occasions where she did, I was working and she did have to, bus dropped her off and, you're wrapping up work at the end and you're trying to get out the door in time, but you can't get out in time. And so
Right.
um, entrepreneur gave me freedom. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want that for her anymore. So I wanted the freedom to be there for my child. So that's what inspired me. And then the purpose of helping women was push me into fashion styling.
Got you. So what did you do before you went into entrepreneur? So like your 9 to 5, what type of job, like what
Right.
in
So falling in line with that, I actually was a fashion buyer for Belk.
okay.
So yeah, so Belk down in the South. So if you're from the South, everybody knows it's a big department store. So um, I was an assistant buyer there, and they had for a couple of years expanded. So initially, their corporate office was in Charlotte. They expanded to Jacksonville. I was took that opportunity when they came and did that until they decided to reconsolidate back to Charlotte. And when they decided to do that, then I had to. Oh gosh, what did I do after that? I don't recall. But actually, no. After that, I went into visual merchandising. So I still stayed within the fashion. Retail market. And so I went to visual merchandising, which is all of your store displays and making
Yeah.
everything look pretty when you come in. And I did that
Mm-hmm.
for a large retailer as well. So that was my 9 to 5. Prior to that, it was banking, but the last 2 years was kind of getting, moving more into what my passion was. You do certain things when you're young just to get a good job and paycheck. And then as you get older, you kind of want to move a little bit more into your passion. So,
Absolutely. I'm right there. We have similar backgrounds because for the majority of my working oh, I hear my dog,
yes,
is banking. And then I went into retail into their office. And now I'm on the floor as one of the sales managers. So,
oh wow, we are because prior to that, I was in dealer financial.
so tell me how you started your style for you business, business.
Right. Well, one of the things working as a buyer that kind of drove me to want to be an image consultant was I didn't like the fact that a lot of times we couldn't control, or as assistant buyer, I couldn't control what we were buying, right? It was all about the numbers, it was all
Mm-hmm.
about the forecasting and things of that nature. And so sometimes we were pushed in areas to purchase things that, maybe um, the vendors we were going with, maybe they were continually giving us the same thing. And Belk is mid to high end,
Right.
mid end, so pretty good, I don't want to drop any names because I don't know if I can, but pretty good labels, designer labels that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it just seemed like the same thing over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so what I wanted to do with image consulting, and another thing that pushed me in there became so the restrictions, because when I was thinking about going to work, I thought about buying. It's like, oh, it's too restrictive, right? They control what I have to buy, when I have to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I don't get to help the individual. And then as for a period of time with my second child, my pregnancy was just a little bit of a strain on me. So I went home, for a while and became a stay-at-home mom. And so when it was time to, look into going back to work, um, I just looked at myself prior to that, and I realized I fell in the mom rut, right? Mom jeans, um, the mom joggers,
Yes.
and thinking, okay, this is okay. And at one point, I remember looking at myself saying, what do I have on? Like, what has happened to me?
Right.
And so luckily for me, I have a fashion background to pull from. So I
Right.
became intentional of restyling myself and you know, refining myself again and saying, okay, this is a mom doesn't have to look old and dowdy, like I
Right.
lost myself as so many moms do.
Mhm.
So, um, so that was one of the reasons why I said, okay, I need to help other women. I want to help other women feel good because once I started dressing that way, I felt confident again, right?
Yes.
And people were complimenting me.
Mhm.
And, it builds your confidence, which a lot of times as a mom, you need because you become so involved in your husband's life and then your
Mhm.
children's life. And it's like you are only existing to lift everybody else up. Literally. You're
Mhm.
the foundation, but you also have to take care. We all understand a poor foundation is an unstable foundation isn't good for anybody. So I wanted to help other women because I realized I had skills, and I've always been like this. To
Mhm.
be honest, back in high school, I remember I would make a chart of the clothing that I wear so I wouldn't repeat the same clothes because I didn't
Are
have a
you
lot of clothes.
serious? That's so cute.
I got it from a friend, I'll have to be honest. I got it from a friend that she was doing that. And I started doing it because I didn't have a lot of clothes, but I always wanted to look nice. So I literally created a chart of my clothing and yeah, that's weird that, I went to that extent, but yeah, I did that. And so I had that and then yeah, so I wanted to help other women feel good about themselves. So that's how I pulled myself into fashion styling and started Style for You. And initially I started it by starting a jewelry business. It was called
Okay.
Exquisitely Yours. And I figured jewelry would be my gateway into leads back then. This was around
Mhm.
2012. So this was my gateway into finding clientele and building leads because, once the women come for the jewelry, I get to talk to them about their overall wardrobe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's how I started that. And from there, kind of went on and met a couple of people and styled a couple of housewives and Don Lemon. And yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah,
So, what's your strategies to attract your new clients and retain existing ones to continue to use your services?
right. Funny enough, my strategy has been going out in public and, um, try to say this as humbly as I can. When I go out, people are always complimenting me on my wardrobe. And
Mhm.
so then I'll say my little spiel is, I cheated. I'm an image consultant. And they go, "Oh, you are? Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah." And how many people meet image consultants, right? Most people don't
Right.
meet them. They think that's
Absolutely.
only for celebrities and,
Absolutely.
people who have a
Mhm.
lot of money. So a lot of times I say, I cheated. I'm an image consultant, fashion stylist. And, oh my gosh, can I get your number? And I've literally had people ask me to come home with them that day, or the very next day. And that's honestly, I'm in the city. Um, so anyway, that's how I've met a lot of my clients, going to women's networking events.
Mhm.
And so going to meetups and things of that nature. So I've met women that way. Um, yeah, so I would say meetups and networking, and just it's a form of word of mouth. My wardrobe speaks for itself. It's kind of like being a hairstylist and having a nice
Right.
hairstyle, people complimenting you on that. So, um, and that's how I retain them is pretty much how I retain relationships, right? Just
Mhm.
calling and checking on them on occasion. How's everything going? What do we need to, how are you feeling? Oh, I've gotten stuck, because this is a skill. A lot of I've had people. I find it funny sometimes. I've actually had someone say, "People pay you for that?" And it's funny because sometimes the people who ask me, if not to sound mean, are the ones who need it.
Right,
Sometimes, it's like, wait a minute, you could use a little bit of style because, you know, they're professional, but you're not at that level of the professional of the client that you're trying to attract. We are in a
right.
conservative area. A lot of people get stuck in being conservative. But
Mm-hmm.
conservative does not have to look dowdy.
Right.
Conservative doesn't have to look boring.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a realtor or, you know, um, in finance, but you're single, you're still looking, you want to stand out. And so
Right.
styling and image consulting is all about creating an image that makes you stand out, that sometimes draws people towards you when everybody else looks the same.
Right. Absolutely. And then also too, I was just thinking about when the person was like, do they pay you for that? It's like not everybody see value in things like that. But for I always say, but for the people that do get it, they get it. And
Yes,
so if you want to, if you're like you say, if you're a business owner and you're doing or you're going to, I have a couple of cousins and friends, they go to this boutique. One of their friends own a boutique, and so they're always getting styled by her. So they show a lot of her clothing and things like that, and so she's able to get more people coming to her just because they post her the outfits that they get from her, and
absolutely.
say where they got it from. And so but they see value. So when they have something special going on or want to look really nice, they go to her and she puts together the outfit for them. Even though they both have some really nice style, I'm thinking about both of my cousins, they really do, but they just go that extra little bit with
Right.
her and it makes it pop. And so it's like, yeah, people pay for that.
Absolutely. And they go to her because, a lot of retail stores, and this is why online boutiques have done so well because so many retail stores sell the same thing that you've seen over
Absolutely.
and
Mm-hmm.
over again. And we work in industries where we know that. That's like I was
Mm-hmm.
saying, working for those department stores. I
Mm-hmm.
got tired of these are the same looks that you had 2 seasons ago. What
Right.
is forced, and so then your manager divisional comes in and says, why aren't we hitting numbers? Because we're not getting anything new, you know.
Right.
Um, and so they're going to her because a lot of the boutiques are individuals who understand fashion and style, you right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
these corporations, you know, what I learned in buying, sometimes I would look at some of the buyers. Maybe you were good in school, maybe you were good with,
Yeah.
in
Mm-hmm.
college, but you
Mm-hmm.
weren't good in fashion. And those are
Right.
two different things. You may be good in forecasting, you may be good in projection, but are
Mm-hmm.
you good in fashion? And
Mm-hmm.
most of them were older, middle-aged men.
Mm-hmm.
How is that fashion?
Right.
That it wasn't stylish people. It was people, because I think fashion back then was more of a sales job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so the new generation understand it is about style, it's about they go to her because they know when they go to her, they can find something unique and they can find
Absolutely.
something different. And it's something to choose from than having to go to this department store and pull this one, then go over to this department store
Mm-hmm.
and pull that one, and then create these pieces out of something. It's like everything is here and it pops and it's different and it's fashionable. And so that's why a lot of online boutiques are doing well.
I've always liked clothes and shoes and things like that. But I can relate when you say like after you have kids, I think I got to a point where I didn't even know how to match up my clothes anymore. Like I just had lost like my touch on what was, looking good. And so I went through a period where I wasn't matching my things together good. And then out of nowhere, I started to get it again, where
Yeah.
I could go there and put stuff together and it looked cute. But not everybody can do that.
When
So
you got back to where you were able to get it again, now I'm not trying to interview you, but um were you were you still working the whole time, or or did you change
Well, I
jobs,
was
or
always working. I think I went to a time where I was no longer in a relationship. It was after my divorce. And so I don't know. I was just kind of trying new things in terms of
yeah,
like clothing that I would pick out, and probably um trying to explore new things and just start picking it up again. Whereas I think I had got so settled in what I was doing
yeah,
that I really didn't care what people were watching or really how I looked, probably,
yeah,
and then I started to be like more paying more attention to how I was presenting myself as a single person. And
yes,
so I think I started to look heavily on looking a certain way again.
yes, yes.
So yeah.
And I think this is why I wanted to style moms and wives, because that does happen, right? We fall into the rut of taking care of the children, taking care of our husband, and then we lose ourselves. And then once we're single, because I went through a divorce as well, but I started changing the way I dress before my divorce. And I will say, my my husband at the time, his outlook changed towards me. It was, slap on the rear, every now and then, because I was, and it was like, okay. So, because I was changing, and I was, redefining myself and rediscovering myself. And so I want to help. My mission is really try to be towards moms and wives, to help you find that, especially wives, find that you before you go through that phase. Because sometimes when you start rediscovering yourself, he's looking at you like, well, who is this? And why is you, and it reignites a new spark in yourself, right? Because there's a certain level of confidence that comes.
It does.
Um, that some issues that you may have even had, certain of our issues were the way in which my spouse spoke to me, right? And it got to be too much. But as I constantly started building my confidence, that she was no longer like you. I don't know who so
Yeah.
it builds the confidence in us again, right? And so
Mhm.
sometimes it's the you they didn't even know they needed, or the you they needed to see again. So, and if nothing else, it builds a confidence in you to
Right.
say what you're going to accept and what you're not going to accept,
Oh,
as well as
absolutely.
just you walk into a room and you feel good. And I mean, in every area, from the living room to the bedroom, it builds your confidence all around. Now, I
Right.
speak from that personally.
Yeah, when you feel good and when you're looking good, you feel good, and you will present yourself differently,
Yes,
and then you have some moments where you just not feeling it, and it don't matter what you put on. It's kind of internal too, but I
yeah.
have walked in a room, and know that okay, this outfit was killing it, so yeah.
But you
Abs-
know what I tend to tell because I have had moments of depression, going through a divorce and things of that nature.
Mhm.
But what I say is, going back to what you said, and I uh, say the same thing. When you look good, you feel good, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes if you look good and leave the house and don't feel good, at least for the time you're out and people are coming to you, oh my gosh, I love those pants. Oh my gosh, I love those
Mhm.
shoes. Oh my gosh. So now you got all this positive energy coming towards you that
Mhm.
sometimes makes you feel better, at least for when you're out. Now, when you
Right.
go back home, you still may climb back into your shell,
Right.
but just for that period of time, you're drawing all that. I look at it as you're drawing all that positive energy towards you,
Mhm.
and it keeps you going just, until you can rebuild yourself. So, and that's why I say it's almost like going on a diet and making sure you have the right foods in your refrigerator. If you have the right
Mhm.
foods in your refrigerator, you don't eat bad, right?
Right.
If you have the right clothing in your closet, very seldomly will you dress poorly. Even when I go to throw something on and I go outside, people are like, oh my gosh, I like this. I'm like, it's leggings and a t-shirt, but I styled it with a blazer or a jacket or something like that.
Right.
And you can't pick bad shoes when you're always buying nice shoes. So it's like, I can't really dress too bad, because And I don't even believe in spending a lot on clothes. I don't.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'm a
When you work
frugal
in
franny.
retail, yeah, it's like well, I know for me, I will stock the clothes until it go to the proper price for me. And
Well,
then I
because we
get
worked in retail, and I think the problem
Mhm.
with being in retail, you've seen things be $90 and then turn around
Oh,
and
they're
be
gonna mark it down.
$13 when it goes 75% off. So it's like, for us, we know how the system works. I actually used to have people who thought clearance. I remember way back when I was talking to someone, they actually thought that clearance was damaged goods.
Like,
But
no,
like, no, it's a
it's just
sales
been here a minute.
cycle.
I
It's a
love
sales
clearance.
cycle. It has to stay on the floor for so much time, and then it has to go to 25%, and then it has
Right.
to go to 30, it has to go to 60 because they have to move it out the door to bring more things in. So I think for you and I, we're like, I'm just gonna keep watching that until
Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
I have the cutest little shirts, the cutest little dresses that I just watch until they go on clearance. Because some things,
yes,
it has to make sense for me when I'm
yes,
making purchases. And so if it doesn't make sense, I'm just not going to do it. It has to be something that I really want for me to pay full price
right,
for it.
right.
And because I am a little bit of conservative, but at the same time, I splurge on what it is that I want to splurge.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm a little
$300
bit
purse with a $20 pair of shoes.
right. So, but if I get a 20 pair of dollar shoes, they're gonna be a name brand because I don't want
Oh,
my
I'm
feet
the
hurt.
same. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah. So, but
Thank
I
God for
will
Jessica Simpson being in Ross.
right. So yeah, I that's how I like. So I do want you to talk about your swimwear. Tell me about your swimwear.
Okay. So I started and which is what I'm wearing. I decided to wear this since this is,
Yeah,
what
I
I'm
can even tell
doing.
what you had on because I don't have my glasses. Okay.
Yeah. So and the difference in my swimwear is that my swimwear has shorts.
Okay.
Now, normally the shorts will match,
Hmm.
but in my initial one, I did it in this color just to give initial contrast to see if I wanted that. So
Okay.
this is one of my samples, but they all have shorts and they all have come high-waisted. So it
Hmm.
has a little bit of tummy and then a little breathability. So we have mesh here.
Okay.
And then they all have like a shelf bra and some padding on the inside.
Okay.
For those of us who aren't as endowed and those of you who are, you can remove it, So there's actually, like a little pocket here that you can actually remove the padding. But
Okay.
yeah, but I created my swimwear uh, so many years ago that it's embarrassing. And I say that because I've let, I did let allow fear and, you know,
We do that.
the consistency around marketing it was what held me back. That was my only thing. I was always producing it and figuring out how to manufacture it. Back when I wanted to manufacture, you had to buy 500 pieces,
Hmm.
and put it in, and try to sell 500 pieces. Well, if you didn't have a retailer to put it in, online wasn't even hadn't even started back then when I started this. So
Tell me about your corporate residential rental business.
okay, I started that on a wing and a prayer, and so basically, it when we moved, we were a military family, and when we moved, um, we kept our house because this was around 2010. And so the market still was kind of upside down, right?
Yep.
So selling it meant that we would have just possibly broke even.
Right.
So we just rented it out. And so after a while, after a couple of long, more headache than it was bringing in. And so literally started it with no furniture in it at all. It was a 4 bedroom, 3 bath home, um, over 2,000 square feet. And I started with no furniture. And just we stepped out on faith, I guess you would say. And my first person actually was someone who was coming to the area, didn't really care that it didn't have any furniture because they were moving all their things up and they just needed a place that had a good garage. he was a ex-secret service, and he was coming to work at the port in the area. And long story short, that worked out perfectly, and then the next person was a woman-owned construction company. These guys were used to staying in Motel Sixes. And so, yes, they had to bring their air mattresses and sleep on the floor, but they got to stay in a nice neighborhood in the suburban area, quiet area. So then each day, I just kept putting money back into the house, and then I found a very unique method. It's my method of how to furnish the home, and then I did that, and then I was off to running within 6 months and had it fully furnished, and then went from there to getting doing rental arbitrage with apartments. And then I did that there, and then I moved and got a couple in the Virginia, DC area.
Okay,
And that carried me through I always say my short-term rental saved my life because they carried me through the pandemic, because Florida was rebellious, and Florida shut down for a little while, and then because of the essential workers, that
yeah.
yeah, that saved me, because it's a military town, and then I had a couple of healthcare workers as well. So I always like to say my short-term rental saved my life, or Airbnb saved my life.
That is awesome. All right, so we're going to go over to on a personal note. What do people misunderstand about you the most?
I think my intentions, right? I intend to help, not to be that I'm a Virgo person, but my intentions are always to help. And so I give a lot of advice, and but I think my biggest thing is, I think people assume that I'm so strong, and I'm like, I'm not strong because I want to be. I'm strong because I've had to be. And so I think even in relationships, people have seen me as being strong, and initially that's seen as a benefit. And then over time, it's like it comes across as like I don't need anybody. And it's not because I don't, it's because when it comes down to it, that's what I've only been able to depend on and count on. So I think my strength, a lot, people leaned on me for years. And I think entrepreneurship, if nothing else, has taught me I need to lean back a little and not put everything on myself.
Right. All right. So, what is one of your favorite childhood memories?
Oh goodness, favorite childhood memories. Ooh, I know we have a couple. I have a couple because it usually involves cousins hanging out, doing you know, little silly things. Um, I will take one that ties in with styling,
Okay.
is that my mother always dressed us to the T, and we she always dressed us so nicely. And I remember people would always compliment us on how well we were dressed and how cute we were. And even though I probably was like 5, I can still remember people saying, "Oh, you have them dressed so cute. They're so cute." And so it's probably because of that I am a stylist as well, and got into fashion. But that's one, and the other ones are just like reckless, and they're not even reckless, just hanging out with cousins and being chased by dogs in Florida, and fun things like that. What some of the things we laugh about, when we get together.
All right. All right. Hopefully you read your whole thing. Okay. And what is your favorite Bible verse? I love to end the podcast with a Bible verse.
Oh gosh, I would say I have two.
Okay.
So uh, after uh, going through a lot, just not post divorce. I won't just say after my divorce, let's say post divorce. It was no weapon formed against you shall prosper. neither any tongue
Mm,
that rise up against you shall prevail. So that
yeah,
was, because
absolutely.
there's always two sides to the story, and then there's God's side of the truth. So then there's that. And then no weapon formed against, no, sorry, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
those,
I,
but there's a couple that carry me, but those two, you know, carry
you
me the most.
remind me of myself in so many ways, and I will definitely tell you about it offline.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, all right. And I just thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and be a part of this podcast. Go ahead and tell everybody how they can follow you on social media and support your businesses and find your swimwear.
Okay. Well, thank you first for having me because this
Oh,
gives me
you're
the
welcome.
opportunity to spotlight my businesses. I'm on Instagram at Styled for You, everything spelled out, STYLEDFORYOU _Marsee. And that's my styling business. So I've styled celebrities and a couple of Real Housewives um, and then other professionals and then you can also find me at my swimwear, which we're in our launching phase right now. So we appreciate all the support on that to get us through our manufacturing phase. And that is social by Marsee.com. And spell the word social just like social media, but social by Marsee, Marci.com, and on Instagram, social by Marsee, as well as on Facebook, social by Marsee.
All right. All right, guys. You can follow me on TikTok and Facebook as Tot Carter, on Instagram as Ivy Tot 10, and Talking with Tot. Until next time, you've been great. Have a great day.